10,000 hours is a steep mountain to climb to become a master, especially when the task at hand puts a relentless demand on your body. There is nothing casual about this sport. It's all in, all effort, all focus. It takes a lot from you, but the reward is unmatched. Mastery of oneself, an acute understanding of your weaknesses with an explosive sense of your strengths. Being able to complete the climb to mastery requires the proper nutrition. This is why it's important to take in a potent blend of electrolytes that is in tune with your output and brings strength to your goals. This potent blend is only found in salt electrolytes. Salt targets your depleted electrolyte levels with a boost of hydration and health. It gives your body the baseline recovery it needs.
What is up, ladies and gents? It is your friendly neighborhood BJJ podcaster, RAF ESPARZA, coming to you with another great installment of the Bullpen. Happy Black Friday, everybody. Did you spend money? I have spent $0. But you know what you can spend money on? And there's no discounts. No discounts. I don't do discounts. Here's why. It's not that I don't love you. It's just that myself, Tim Freeman, when we put stuff on Patreon, it's already at a discounted price. Like the discount of my heart and my brain. So if you guys support us, we love it. We appreciate it. So we'll see you tomorrow for Small Business Saturday. But for today, if you guys are thinking I'm going to do some sort of discount, the answer is no. I still love you, but like it's $5 a month. So like what am I doing? $4.55 a month? No. Just fucking do $5 if you love us. And I know that a lot of you do. Nonetheless, I am happy to report that said Tim Freeman, let me just double check here because things might have changed since I've seen him at least 20 seconds ago, is alive? Yay!
I'm back.
Tim's back. Look at this, sir. How are you feeling, man?
Man, you know what? Not even the plague can keep me off this show. Bacterial pneumonia, nobody cares about that. I got on the Gordon Ryan antibiotic cocktail and I fought my way back, busted my way back into good health, and I am here. I'm stoked to be here. A lot has happened and a lot's coming up, so it's great to sit down with you today, Raph.
Likewise. I can unfortunately say we do not have KEVIN Sherrill with us. He is readjusting for Rio. And, you know, to his credit, he did get back into town, I believe, yesterday. And I just said, like, hey, man, glad you made it home safe. And I always have to walk that line of, like, I am glad you're home, but I did receive your time off request. We unfortunately have to grant it. So he's not here today. But I think he's logistically thinking, like, is Raph just saying hi because he wants me to be on the show tomorrow? And it's potential, but he had already requested the Friday off, so we wish him well on this Black Friday. Who knows what he's doing today here, Tim?
Yeah, I don't know. He's probably been standing in line all night outside of Best Buy trying to get a Nintendo DS for $49.99.
So, to my knowledge, yes, this should be alive on our YouTubes, but who knows? Who knows, Tim? After the week I have been through, sometimes things are promised to you that are not necessarily delivered upon. So, I saw something went up, and I think it stopped. So if it stopped on the YouTube, we'll post this a little bit later. But for right now, we should also acknowledge, oh, you're not Stephen Aiken. Let's take that off. You're not Matt Elkins. These are all the people we had ready to replace you at any time, Tim.
Yeah,
So,
I know, man. Pull the trigger. Now I know who to go after.
yeah, I mean, to be honest, you did send me a note that you said, I feel a certain way about seeing other people in my chair. What made you feel that way when we were doing the end of the PGF? Because honestly, this is really the first time I've seen you since the end of PGF.
Yeah, I was pissed that I was laying down in a hotel bed in a 72-hour fever dream state. And I'm like, you know what? I'm going to fire this baby up and at least watch the finals. I could watch them from bed. And then I see some dude sitting in my chair and I'm like, man, I don't like this one bit. That I should be sitting there. That should be me sitting there. Except I'm laying down in the infirmary right now, and I don't even know if I'm going to make it back home to Nashville. So, yeah, I love those guys. They're awesome, but I was just like, come on. I'd rather see a cold, dead body in that seat than Steven after his
it is
sneak
your
attack.
chair, though, so it's not like we were auditioning anybody. It's just we thought if you were going to pass, we should just be ready. And I felt like we did a good job, and Steven did a good job. Jason Anik did a good job. And, Matt Elkins. I mean, Matt Elkins was a surprise. He actually had the smooth voice of communicating it nicely. So I don't think you were going to lose your job to either of the other two, but Matt, he came in wearing sunglasses and I want to say a turtleneck of some sort.
I think that guy was born with sunglasses on.
And it was just like you were asking him to be on a goofy show, and you got the sense that this was almost beneath him or something to that effect, where I just go, oh, this doesn't feel right. So,
yeah.
In any event, well, I'll tell you this, Wallow J has found us, so that could have been from a while ago, and if so, we apologize, but hello, Wallow. Hello back to you. Tim, we have matters to get to, but do you have anything to say? Like, are you made aware of the situation between myself and Kevin?
The situation. There's a situation. I am not aware of a situation, actually. I would like to hear because usually if there's a situation, I want to be up in the middle of said situation.
Sure. This one went on for 30 minutes of the show, I want to say, the last time when you were gone. Which, by the way, Tim was like, I'll be on the next show the week after. And then maybe a day before it goes, guys, I will not be on the show. And I go, that's okay, Tim. Just fucking recover. It's fine. The situation as such, as per Smooth Comp and the finals, Kevin and I tied for the fantasy league.
Okay. Wow.
So
what?
Here's the issue. Kevin is under the assumption that Paul Ardilla should have been awarded an extra point because he got an elbow genie. However, the results have already been certified, so those are the points. Like, I'm looking at them. And then there was also bitching about him and Egg went off, and they're like, we don't do postseason. We don't do the finals. And I was like, we did it last year. I don't understand why we're bitching about it now. So you have all these people who weren't necessarily super involved or in charge telling us how we do things here. And I go, Kevin, you weren't even here last year. You can't tell us how we did things. And Egg, the person who likes to go by the rule book, conveniently forgetting how we did it last year. So as a result, I'll just ask your thoughts. What are your thoughts to this situation as is?
Well, listen, once the points are certified, they're certified. That's it. There's no going back and going, he should have did this and he should have got that. You can't litigate. It's over. That's it. It's in Smooth Comp. It's posted. If you're the winner, look, I don't want you to be the champion again, but if you're the winner, dude. Like, that's how it works.
Here's the other problem. So there's this twofold here. One, and I need to ask you a question. Was there ever a belt promised for this league?
I assumed that there was, but I don't remember a specific instance, but I mean, you got one the first
did, but
first
that's
time around.
because BMAC showed up on our show, or he was in the comment section and said, I'll buy you a belt. And at that point, my eyes lit up and I said, oh, I'm going for it. But 2, this is the second contention. What happens in the UFC if there's a draw in a title match?
I think the champ keeps the belt. You got to beat the champion, not draw the champion. That's a cat's game. That's cat's game. No title. That's no titles change hand. In the WWE, you can't win the belt by DQ, by timeout, by any of those factors. You have to pin the champion. You have to beat him. You have to make him quit. So I would say, sorry, Kevin, if I can't be champion, neither can you. It's going to be status quo for another year. Look, I know what it's like to deal with RAF as champion. I don't know what it's like to deal with Kevin as champion. He's probably a monster. That's probably a worse version of Kevin than Dirtbag Kevin.
So the issue that we found on this show, and I don't know how much is bleeding from his real competitiveness, but it's like the first time he's experienced not host RAF to like me being like, well, I won, and his competition sense kicking in and be like, no, there was a point. There should be a point on there. And I go, it's not on there. And like, dude, I didn't do it. And
yeah,
I'm going off of what it says. He's like, nah, man, Egg, he was telling me that it's got to be on there. And I go, oh my God, he's going to storm the Capitol. It's 100% what's happening here.
He's appealing to Egg.
But I just found it so hilarious that our dude, when he's described being very competitive, it manifested and we saw it. And I go, oh, okay. That's where that guy is. I see you now, Kevin. So just so the people know, that is where we stand. And we had our good friend, which big shout out to our friend Brian Peterson with a Y, not an I, which is the dumb way, but whatever. Brian, when I asked him, I was like, what did you cut from last week? He sent me 5 videos from last week. And I go, you didn't cut any of the nonsense we were talking? He goes, it was half the episode. I go, right. I thought by process, one of those clips would have made the cut. And he goes, I can cut one if you want. And I go, no. What you pick is what you pick. But I just was from a volume standpoint, like, shit, one part of this nonsense is going to make it. And it did not. So as per Brian's judgment, I will go off of it. But I needed to make sure you were aware of what's happening. And that Kevin,
you're still champ in my books. You're still the champion.
So one thing that I was doing with Kevin as he was describing is I was like, does this go well up here? Should I put it back there? And there was a less than enthusiastic face on the other side of that camera. So,
he wants that belt, dude.
I think the weird part is, this is the one that made me the most happy, is I told him, I'm like, hey man, can you make 185? And he's like, I was like, well, I'm pretty much like 185 on a dot. So even from the most technical standpoint, mine not going anywhere. But now you know why it's going to be way more entertaining this next season. And by the way, before we get to the board, we should note they did release the date for the first PGF qualifier. I'm saying it's January 11th. Is that correct?
Okay. You know what? I didn't know they released that yet. Do you know what city it's in?
Not here.
Here.
That's how I operate off of events. If they exist somewhere else, I go, I'll get there when I get there. But if it's in California, I tend to know the dates.
Yeah, it's probably going to be Vegas and Austin. Although they had a good one in, it's in Decatur.
So I think they're starting Alabama first, and then I think they're going elsewhere after that. So that's the one we know for sure we can release. The other ones, I'm not quite sure if they're getting released yet, but they're in talks. So book that out if you're in Alabama. Go get on this card. 155 is about to get real fucking weird, dude, because there's a lot of people I can think of off the top of my head who should be involved. I don't even know if they will be, because the number of people that are probably going to try and get in.
There's a lot of 155ers and there's a lot of good ones. And I feel like now, especially with PGF pulling off 2 seasons back to back that were pretty good, like very entertaining. The word is out. It's a real thing. I think there's a lot more dudes that want to get in on it.
For sure. All right, Tim, with that, I think it is time for us to actually go on over to the main board, which we will do right over here. 2 people. It's me and you on the board this week. And let me just say this. I'll go ahead and start with the very first topic that you did select for us, Tim. And by the way, thank you for this, because I was worried we might not be covering it. It does appear that if you make Craig Jones mad, he might bring down the house on you. Apparently, there was a copyright strike on the B Team YouTube page, and it had to do with an ad that aired on Flow Grappling. Flow said that belonged to them. Craig said not so much, and said you have 3 hours, like a true Bond villain, to take that strike down. I'd like for you to tell us your thoughts on this incredibly absurd situation, Tim.
You know, the thing that jumps out to my mind is these guys are cosmically tied to each other now. You know, they are quantumly entangled. There's nothing that Craig can do that will not affect Mo. And I think it's mostly a one-way stream. Mo does stuff, then Craig, responds accordingly. Craig is basically the helicopter in Goodfellas following Henry around, and Mo is Henry driving around, and everywhere he goes, he can't get away from Craig. Mo's going to have to go into witness protection now, man. There's no way. Just tap, Mo. Just tap, let it go. This could have been like an automated software strike kind of thing, but I doubt it. It probably wasn't. I think Craig licks his lips every time an opportunity like this comes up. He capitalizes on it. It's good for Mo in a way, too, because it keeps his name out there, but he's definitely categorized as the villain, and everybody pretty much wants to see Craig win outside of a handful of people. I think it's going to keep happening. Now, the other thing Craig did is he threatened to show up, not show up, but run CJI events for every Who's Number One event that's coming up if they don't take the copyright claim down. And, I kind of wanted to see him do it. I'm like, is this dude actually going to do this? Are we going to see Monday Night Wars? Are we really going to see this on a every 2 or 3 month basis? That would be great. That'd be great for CJI. It'd be great for jiu-jitsu, but I don't think they really want to play that game. And maybe Craig doesn't really want to play that game either. That's a lot of work. It's a lot of investment. It's a lot of skin you got to put in the game. But yeah, at this point, these guys they're stuck together at the hip, man. This is not quite Dumb and Dumber, but don't come after me, Craig, but it's quite close. So it's enjoyable to watch, man.
I felt like as I was seeing it unfold, when Craig was just like, you have 3 hours to go. I'm old. But at the same point, you'll know it'll get done. And I thought the worst part was hey, Craig, sorry about the misunderstanding. We've taken this down. Because from my knowledge, and I could be wrong here, in order to have a copyright claim, sometimes YouTube can do it, but in order to file the claim, somebody physically has to send that over. So I'm not quite sure what happened there. I don't know if it was an automated thing that it did, because how long did it take for it to trigger? It was 2 months.
Yeah, right.
So it feels like, I guess the question is, who ordered the executive order here? Like, who from Flow pressed that button and said, I know, we're going to get him like this? Or what AI is responsible for this? Like, how did this happen? And that's the big error I don't know that we have an answer to just yet. But I hope that we get that answer sooner than later, because hilarious. And also, I mean, listen, all of us here enjoy when Flow takes it a little bit, because doing this is like, they could do this to any other person and they'd probably have to go, we'll take it down.
Yeah.
Craig's in a space now of like, fuck with me, I'll do it. And I think you're right. When you mentioned that he said he was going to do one for every who's number one, I go, everyone?
Yeah.
Like, bro, I don't know that your team has the bandwidth to do that many events when you barely want to do 2 a year, but I'm all for it because it means more grapplers. It's just these guys who were promised $1 million. It did make me think. I was like, well, for sure it's not going to be $1 million each time if they do who's number one schedule. So what are we looking at here?
Yeah.
I'm all for it. Thank you to the people. In case you just got here, which you would if you were Egghead, where's the pilot from Airplane? Well, that young man is unfortunately recovering from Rio, and he has some other obligations. So he's out today. We hope to have him back next week. But I did make the announcement, Tim, that we hired him. So
oh, nice. Yeah. Congrats
we did put
to
that
Kevin.
out there. I wasn't sure if it was the right time, but I figured, well, I already lost one host, so I really got to make sure the other host is hired before I have to audition 2 people. It's very confusing, but I jumped the gun. So
No, I think that's great, man. Kevin's a great addition to the show. He's a real pleasure to work with.
Absolutely. And fits in very well, I should say.
Yeah.
Subscriber 10304 says, hey, 209, what's up? So that's definitely for you.
Nobody wears the 209 prouder than people from the 209. It's like, it's nothing to holler out, man. No, if you're not fighting, don't yell that out.
Specifically, if you're not part of Nate Diaz's crew, you don't have to.
Right.
And Egg, thank you for the well wishes. I had a great Thanksgiving, went to a casino, enjoyed that for what it was worth. Didn't have to clean up, do any of that shit. But I did see Egg. Those bacon wrapped scallions looked phenomenal. So good stuff.
That sounds
there.
delicious.
Great to see you again. Hope you had a great Thanksgiving. Tim, did you have a good Thanksgiving?
I did. I made a feast, man. I made homemade lasagna, homemade chicken nochi, ribeye. We had a smoked turkey, made cream corn, garlic mashed potatoes, Caesar salad. We went all out, and I realized, and we had a handful of people over that are kind of new to the area, also don't really have family out here, which it was great, fun get together. I made like 3 times too much food though. So I was literally like asking people like, y'all gonna take something home, right? Because I can't eat 7 pounds of meat in the next 3 days. It's not gonna happen. But we had a real nice time. Cleanup was a little tricky, but it was still fun. So
well, I'm glad. That's very nice of you to take care of the community there, sir. So big ups to you and your family. I hope it was enjoyable. We will now move on to the next topic. However, the next topic is that of reality. So the UFC has been teasing this, but it seems like we are closer to seeing that reality happen now, which is they're going to do their own version of the Ultimate Fighter, but as a reality show, ? It feels like they're going that direction. But when they say they have a reality show product, I'm intrigued, but I'm also wondering how far in advance they are on this one. So, Tim, I'm going to let you start by telling us what you think about this new recent development.
well, I think the UFC is going back to their old playbook, and it makes sense. That's a great way to kind of introduce it to an audience, especially an audience that maybe isn't super keen on grappling, might not be their favorite thing. You build some drama around it. I feel like Eric Medina and Joey House already did this with the LA Jiu-Jitsu Hotel. They just didn't have live 24/7 cameras. You know, it'd just be the 10p guys taking glaucoma medicine in the garage, you know. But I think it's great. I think if they have a house, they should stack it with villains and then put Mikey Musumeci in the middle and just see if they could make this guy quit loving pizza. Like, can they just ruin it for this dude? I would bring in all the characters. AJ Agazarm comes in. I'd bring Nick and Nate. I'd bring Jeff Glover. I'd bring Husamer Palhares. I'd bring Johnny Fairplay and Danny Bonaducci into the house. I would force Mikey Musumeci to live with them and see if we could make this guy give up his pizza pasta ways, man. I think it's probably going to be a big hit. I'm very interested in it, and I'm interested in seeing what the impact this show has on the other grappling promotions, if any. I think it will. There's a lot of, copycat behavior in jiu-jitsu, which is fine. I'm not knocking that. Everyone's trying to come out with something new. But it's sometimes it's a little derivative. Sometimes it has a unique wrinkle on it. It will be interesting to see what the downstream impacts are of this. But I think it's good for jiu-jitsu. It's going to put us out there in a bigger way. I don't know if Mikey Musumeci is the right guy to build it around personality wise, but I'm certainly interested in watching it. So big ups to them.
I think you are correct in that assertion because, oh, no, I lost that. We'll bring that back in real quick. Boom. All right. So the one thing that I think you're hitting the nail on the head is we probably need to pull our resources together and get back some of the Looney Tunes that we have in the sport. And believe me, we're not short on it. I've dealt with it for the past couple weeks. I just think of it like this. I don't know what the public demand is for it. At the time, reality was a newer concept in terms of sitcoms were almost on their way out for the TV landscape, and reality shows, especially for females, became the new sitcoms. It'd be like, oh my God, you see what Kim Kardashian did today? You go, no. Am I watching this against my will? Oh, okay. They had a fight at a birthday party. Sounds good. I don't know if people do that anymore. I don't know. I think they ingest the Netflix, and I think that if they have the content, they can make some stuff happen. So, sure, but it does prove to be a good concept for us in terms of educating people about the athletes. It's an opportunity to get to know them, what makes them tick, hopefully make them interesting. And, in some cases, they're not super interesting, so they got some work cut out in the editing room. I would tell you this, though. I am concerned. All of the villains you just mentioned, or the tweeners, which is not a good guy or a bad guy in pro wrestling speak, I worry about what happens when you put a camera crew on these people, because they've been neglected for so long that just giving them that little bit of camera time might make them even more insane. That turns people away from our sport. So it's a real fine line, a real balance here, but I'm intrigued. I obviously want good things for the grapplers, and I wonder if they've already got contracts, because they said Mikey was the first and there's a lot more coming. And you asked what the implication is going to be. I think when they get signed to exclusive deals, I think that's going to impact a big part of our community, so that those people who were once approachable, that you thought, oh, they can appear on my card, my Who's Number One, my Enigma, now you can't touch them. And I mean, we've seen some of that happen with one, and even the Craig Jones Invitational, and there were some exceptions made here, but I don't think you're going to find names that are bigger than the Rotolos, and I feel like they were a special exception. So it's about to get real dicey here, people.
Yeah, and it's crazy to me because Halleck Gracie got peppered with criticism when he tried to sign Gary Tonin to an exclusive contract back in that time. And that, I think, is going to become the norm, especially if you're a promotion that's trying to stay alive. Like, your ability to be out there is directly tied to the athletes that are competing for your organization. And, as you know, it's hard enough already to get dudes to – you could see them the day before, and then the next day they're like, nah, I changed my mind. You know what I mean? So,
the one thing I'll say about the Meta Morris and the Halleck signing Gary, if memory serves me, it was never, oh, that's a bad idea. It was you don't have the money to execute that idea. And I remember specifically saying, you can't lock down someone to an imaginary monopoly contract and not expect pushback, because the NBA doesn't get shit for being like, well, you can't go compete in other basketball organizations. They don't tell people like, that sucks. It's a much different climate where you say their way of making money is leveraging it and going to other organizations. If the UFC wants to pay, sure.
Yeah.
But we're also going to find out how much they're paying grapplers, because we see what they pay some of their lower end fighters. I think that's going to be the higher end grapplers pay. And
I think you're right. It's going to set the bar.
That could be good, but we don't know. And dude, they're getting, like, if we're already talking about the Ultimate Grappler, that could be very cool. And Flo did a version of it. Egghead just put a note here that said, just give us some more production crew for the PGF. We can add the reality piece. I mean, it's done for a documentary, so we definitely have that side. We're just a little short-staffed on having a billion cameras in the house and manufacturing the drama by putting in alcohol, which I don't even know if most grapplers are going to do. We'll see.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, there's a part of me that wonders if the UFC does this and they bring in these people into one house, it could be interesting. It could explode. We don't know yet. But the UFC's better model in recent years has been the Dana White Contender Series. And I can't help but think this is a temporary solution that gets you to that one where it's even cheaper. Because if they offered 500 and 500 show and bonus money, you could get literally 1,000 grapplers to Vegas in 20 minutes.
Yeah, especially if there is a carrot out there that is you can get a contract to be a signed UFC grappler. Like that's definitely a huge incentive to get guys to come out and show up and do it and see what happens. The thing about the drama is I'm trying to imagine how would you manufacture more drama than what's already been manufactured on the past seasons of The Ultimate Fighter? Because some of those fighter dudes were unhinged. Like they were crazier than any grappler I've ever met, you know? So it's like, well, what's the threat? It's, I'm going to guillotine you. It's, you know,
well,
it's
you
like,
get
I'm
the
going to leg
sense
lock you.
that we literally have to go to the jiu-jitsu equivalent of Arkham Asylum. And it's like, tell me about you. They have to do a psychological exam. And if they're like, yeah, you're too normal, get out of here. You're going to be like, oh, you want to burn it all down.
Yeah.
Oh, your thoughts on trickle down economics are what? Done. Let's go. Like, I feel like there is an element in the casting, and that is something the UFC does incredibly well with The Ultimate Fighter. Their casting is usually very good. And I feel like that's part of the reason why some people get mad when their friends don't get on the UFC. And I've heard cases of people getting bumped out of the cast.
Oh,
and
wow.
I tell people that does certainly suck. But it's like a reality show. You're not competing to see who's the best necessarily. You're competing to see who's the best out of the crazy they pull that's good for TV. And maybe sometimes your friend that got kicked out was just too fucking normal. And they said, yeah, this dude's not going to do it. I get it. It sucks. Nobody likes to hear that. But it's not necessarily always as bad as you think it is. Because people are like, man, the best person in jiu-jitsu is going to get this contract. I was like, not necessarily. You know,
no.
Maybe the best person out of those 16 gets the contract. But who's to say? So we shall see. This is a prominent question from Aaron Sheffield, who asks, wonder if the UFC will steroid test grapplers. Well, they have more infrastructure than the rest of us. But if they want to see some of our superstars be superstars, probably not.
Mikey had made a comment about this, that he wants to compete in a grappling organization that's testing, and how happy he was about that. But look, man, you know, they test fighters right now, and dudes, let's just be real, they're not all clean. Like, you know, they get caught all the time. I don't think it's going to stop anything. The dumb ones will get caught real quick, you know, pop, 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 and then it'll change. They'll change their cycle or whatever it is they're doing, how they're doing it. But I don't think that should be the focus. I really think Mikey missteps a little bit when he makes such a big deal out of that. The focus should be on how awesome jiu-jitsu is and making it entertaining. And I guess maybe that's a side piece, but you could take all the steroids you want. There's a lot of dudes that take steroids that are not even regional champions. Like, they're still not good enough on the juice to be a regional champion. So
what if, I mean, this isn't, before I say this joke, please make sure that you understand. I don't actually think this is how Mikey is, but it is a what if scenario. I'd like to wonder if Mikey Musumeci is out on the side being like, that's just a character I play. I don't give a shit. I'm on steroids. Like, I feel like that would be funny to see the off character, the off the camera Mikey.
Oh,
that's like,
yes.
oh, I talk like this and I'm super excited and it's great. Yeah, I hate that guy.
Yeah.
That kid doesn't know shit. This is the real Vince. This is who I am. I tell you guys this. I've been using steroids since I was 5 years old. They put me on. They put me in a diaper. I didn't even know. Like, to me, that might be funny, but Mikey is leading that crusade. And, hey, listen, as a guy who wants people to compete clean, there's a part of me that appreciates it. The UFC has the infrastructure that they could do it. It is expensive, but that would definitely rule out some fan favorites.
Probably. I would think they would only do it if the athletic commission gets involved. If the commission stays out of it, they're probably just going to be like, steroids. You know?
I mean, we're about to see, I think, a culture shift because enough athletes in combat sports bitch about what's so wrong with steroids, or they state their case, that I think there could be a public change of opinion that they may be more embracing to it. But what I don't want is for people to utilize the idea where they say, oh, but don't you want the athletes to be healthy? And they take these steroids and they're healthy. And I go, I don't think that's why they really want to take them. I think they got beat by a guy and they're really pissed and they want to be able to out-steroid them. So it's their version of getting strapped up and being like, guns? Done. I can't use guns, but I can use these guns. So it's my way of thinking. We'll see where it goes. Yet to be determined. These are, at best, children guesstimates. But Tim and I have been around for a reason for a long period of time. So we might be more on the dartboard than we're letting known right here. But let's go to our next topic, which is, I'm going to let you take this one, Tim, because when I got this on the doc and I saw you describe it, I thought, I don't think I'm disagreeing with you all that much, but the pitch on it perhaps needs your finesse, your grace, your style of wordsmith that perhaps I can't even do.
I read this title line and I just shook my head. I was like, I don't even need to read the article. I did, but I didn't really need to. It was Gordon Ryan explains why smart people are attracted to jiu-jitsu. And there's just something that really struck me funny about that. Listen, I think Gordon's great at jiu-jitsu, and I think he really does understand the methodology behind what he's doing. But I think there's a little bit of a fallacy at play where he takes that and he goes, because of that, then that means I can also do delicate eye surgery. And I can also do interpretive breakdancing. And I also have an opinion on literary criticism. And we kind of see that play out. And it strikes me funny. It's like, dude, if you would just grapple and maybe not throw your intellectual weight around so much, which isn't very much, then it would probably be more well received. If Gordon wrote a book, the book would be Whatever John Says. That would be the title of the book. And I think Gordon, he leans into the role as a villain. And I think that he isn't probably the worst dude, especially one-on-one. When you get behind the phone and you got a bunch of followers, I think it can gas you up to do things and say things that get those reactions. And I get that. I understand that aspect of it. But a lot of things he says are like, dude, do you really know this? Or did you hear this on a podcast and you just memorized the last 2 minutes and now you're regurgitating it? There seems to be a lot about that. So anyway, it just struck me funny as like Gordon Ryan explains why smart people do jiu-jitsu. The other thing is there's a lot of people that do jiu-jitsu that are not smart. Okay. There's some smart people. Jiu-jitsu is like the foster child of grappling. So anything we can do to pump ourselves up, we do. We're like, oh yeah, you guys don't like to watch it because it's boring. But look, there's a lot of software engineers that do jiu-jitsu. We're pretty smart, guys. It's just like, dude, no, we're not. Get off your high horse, man. We're a bunch of meatheads for the most part. Yeah, there's some thoughtful guys. There's some nice dudes. There's some smart people. But we're not breaking any bell curves, man. We're locked in. Standard deviation all the way. So
I don't know if you guys have ever seen this, but at least in my group settings, there have been a group of people who have been like, well, we don't like being called smart at all. Or will 100% celebrate, no, we're dumb. And you go, okay, that's fair. I do have to check one little thing here, Tim, which is Gordon did write a book. And it is called Top Game. And just in case you were wondering, it was published in 2022. And I think the funniest part of this is I read something one way and then I read it a different way. But did you know there's a softcover version of it, which is normally people's term for paperback, but I guess they're calling it softcover now. And all I could think of was Gordon Ryan being like, what? Nothing I write is soft. Get that shit out of here. They're like, no, it's what we call paperback. Nah, dude, my book ain't soft.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Then he goes online immediately and explains it. Okay, there's a soft cover and a hard cover. Yeah.
Turns out some people need their softness to be in cover. And actually, there's a very important thing. This whole generation is too woke and got soft. And you could literally see it by the people who bought the soft cover. Like, okay, great. Good job, man. Yeah, you said all the things you needed to say on that one. I'll just say this. You can be incredibly smart. It does not mean it translates to other kinds of smart. It's just, it can be sometimes a nice predictor, like, oh, they're good at solving puzzles, or they're smart at fixing cars. There's different levels of smart. We see on a regular basis for Gordon, though, certain levels of aptitude are not his friend. So, at the very least, social IQ, rough. I would play one of these sound effects, but I feel like that would just be mean. What I will say is, though, when you put that up there and you just said irony, I go, Gordon Ryan explains smart people. You will take that one, sir, and have fun. Anyway, let's go.
I love you, Gordon.
Our next topic is this, and this is a big one. Next weekend, we were talking about the UFC getting more involved in grappling, and this Thursday, there's going to be a new Fight Pass Invitational, and it begs the question, will there be more eyeballs on it, given their announcements and their first signed superstar? Which I guess if you really think about it, doesn't that make the other guy also one of the first signed? Like, we made such a big to-do about Mikey that I go, you can't just be the first signed without an opponent, can you? Like, maybe they just pick you up, but that means this guy's got to be at least number 2, if not 1.5. So next Thursday, it will be the first installment featuring Mike and Musumeci. I'll ask your thoughts, Tim Freeman.
Yeah, I would, if I was like one of the other dudes who's on this card, Fight Pass Invitational 9, that by virtue of the fact that it's number 9, that means there were 8 more ahead of these. What is everyone else just a scab? Did they like cross the picket line and got the job, But, I think Musumeci is going to be an interesting fight. He's fighting Felipe Machado. I don't think he's going to have a terribly hard time with Machado. Machado's a pretty dynamic athlete. He's high risk, takes a lot of chances. I think that's the kind of grappling style that plays into Musumeci's hand, to be honest with you. So I think he's going to do quite well. There's some other really good fights on the card. Once again, we're seeing the husband-wife combination of Raquel Canuto and Renato Canuto on the same card. Raquel's been on a big run. She beat Gabby McComb at the last one. She's going up against Michelle Oliveira, who's an MMA fighter. She's tough, but I think Raquel's jiu-jitsu is on a really good level, and she's in a really good space competitively. I'm looking forward to seeing that. Ryan Aiken is coming off a tremendous, outstanding effort at PGF Season 7, and he's going to be fighting Gabriel Almeida, who had a win at the last FPI in overtime on points. We're going to see Kyle Chambers and Leonidas Gracie. I think that's going to be a good fight. Obviously, Chambers is a big leg locker, and Gracie's had a little trouble with that, but we've also seen him shut dudes down with his body lock passing. I'm very interested in seeing that battle to see if Chambers can get up underneath him and set off some leg attacks, or if Gracie's going to shut him down. speaking again of Canuto, he's going up against Jason Nolf, who basically has stepped away from a great wrestling career and said, I'm dedicating 100% of my time to jiu-jitsu. He's going to improve. He knows how to win. He knows how to get ready. He knows how to compete. I think that's going to be a great matchup. And, Canuto submitted PJ Barch at the last FPI, and that's not easy. There's not very many dudes who have submitted PJ Barch. So that's going to be a great matchup. Overall, I think there's going to be more interest in it. I think the UFC is going to start pushing it out there quite a bit more. And UFC fans are kind of like, yeah, we're going to watch it. Like, they're going to give it a try. They'll give it a shot. I think there will be new viewers. I hope all the matches don't go to overtime. If there's some high-flying subs and some really cool stuff, I think that's going to be really good. I'm hoping they make some kind of big announcement, or at least give us a breadcrumb of what we can expect to see on the reality show or coming up in the future. Maybe they'll even announce a new signing. I don't know, but I'm definitely looking forward to that, Raf. I think it's going to be a great card.
Would agree on that. It'll be very interesting to see what they're doing, but whenever the UFC or Dana White goes on another organization, I think he went on, did he go on like TMZ or one of those other shows? And he's like, we're investing big in jiu-jitsu. And I go, what changed? Because you could have done that at any time. This was not a sport that necessarily had money or a machine behind it. And there is part of me that wonders if they're doing this strategically because more and more grapplers may be interested in doing MMA, or if they were going to be interested, the UFC would have first refusal. So I think it's their way of saying, like, we want to make sure that any fighting talent that's worth watching stays here. And that's a good entry form in doing it. So I don't know. Oh, great note here. Aaron Sherfield says Lucas Lira versus Pixley will be entertaining.
Yeah, Pixley's just one of those. He's one of those guys, and I like Pixley, so don't take this the wrong way. He might not be the best guy in the room, but he might be the guy that gets signed. He's got a good style. He knows what to say. He knows how to say it. He carries himself well. So, and I think you hit the nail on the head. The UFC is basically synonymous with NFL, MLB, NHL, NBA, and all of those leagues have a pipeline that feeds them talent. Football has college football. Baseball has the minor leagues. NBA has developmental leagues. I don't know what hockey has. I'm not a huge hockey fan. They have Canada. That's what hockey has. But outside of that, the UFC, I think they don't want to miss any talent, because if they pull a grappler in that they sign for 50 G's a year and he turns out to be their next superstar, that's a potential 20 or 50x return on their money. So it makes sense that they're doing it, and it's good for jiu-jitsu. So I say ride the MMA coattails as far as you could possibly ride them.
Also, there's a part of me that wonders how long they keep certain talent perhaps off other events. Like, do they block you from ADCC?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Those are things that I think we're going to find out more and more as this kind of unfolds. But this is new ground for all of us. Like, all of us are kind of looking at this with bated breath of what's going to happen and who's doing what and who's going to be pulling the strings. But you get the sense that UFC don't play. So,
yeah, especially when Dana talks about it. It's one, and I'm not knocking anyone at Fight Pass, but it's one thing when Fight Pass is interested in it. It's another thing when Dana's saying it, like, we're going to do this and we're going to do that. Like, and he's big on jiu-jitsu. I've heard him talk about jiu-jitsu a lot of times. So it's definitely something he likes.
I also don't have the context for those photos with Mikey and Dana, so I have no idea what's being said in there. But in my head, nothing is funnier than the version I have up here.
Absolutely.
So every time I see that photo, I go, I don't know what he's saying to him, but I know Dana's gonna be like, oh boy, this guy, like, in his head. So maybe that's the bit I got to do, is just record a voiceover with Dana voice saying what he's thinking about Mikey Musumeci, talking about probably, who knows, like tricks or like cornstarch, and him being like, whoa, it's a lot of investment. Okay. This dude's crazy. I don't know if you guys have gotten to talk to him, but like, he's got a lot of opinions on pizza. He's going to be on 59 of my fucking Fridays, helping me this Friday with Chef Guy Fieri. Like,
yeah,
that's the future we're looking at now.
It is. You're right.
Let's move to our next one, which is it's who? Her? Don't get lost to among all of this. Yes, who's number one? We'll be back on this Wednesday. So Thursday is the big UFC Fight Pass, but Wednesday, the night before, there's going to be a who's number one. And it's an interesting thing because that card has also got readjusted as well. So Tim, walk us through what we can expect for that who's number 125.
Well, the card that I have, and this may have changed, but it's fairly recent. There's a few names on here we recognize, right? Max Hansen's going to be running out there against Carlos Enrique. The interesting thing I like about this is they actually are putting odds on it. So, and I don't know who the odds makers are, and if you're into sports gambling, I would say there's probably a lot of opportunity to make some money if you follow grappling. Because I think some of these odds probably aren't calibrated exactly right, especially if lots of people aren't gambling. It's hard to read the money line from the bookmaker standpoint. But we see Max Hansen coming out. He's a minus 150 favorite. We're also going to see Daniel Sattler, which I want to see Daniel Sattler versus Max Hansen. That's what I want to see. But both those guys got fights on the card. Helena Crevar is out there. She's a minus 2,000 favorite over Leilani Bernales. If you're Leilani, you had nothing to lose, man. You go out there, you try to put on a show. We saw that Helena ran into some trouble at ADCC, but he's a very fierce competitor. She's super young. She has a lot of room to grow. So I think, who's number one's definitely interested in keeping her on the card. Felipe Pena versus Declan Moody. Felipe is one of those guys where if he shows up motivated and he shows up in the right headspace, he can almost be unbeatable. But if he doesn't, then it might not be that exciting of a match. He's hard to beat, but if he doesn't assert himself, then, it could just drag out. We're going to see Pedro Mourinho back on the card, which is going to be a great match against, I think it's Isaac Michel, but I'm not sure how he pronounces his last name. I've always said Michel, so don't be upset at me, dude.
I'm pretty sure I screwed it up too, so don't worry, you're good.
Yeah, and then Kenan Duarte against Roberto Jimenez. That's a match I'm looking forward. I'm pretty sure Jimenez is fighting above his weight class for this. Jimenez is one of those dudes that can fluctuate up and down quite a bit. And, Kenan can be absolutely unbeatable if he shows up in shape and motivated. And again, it's a question. He's a little bit like Felipe Pena, like which version is going to show up. He's a pretty big favorite at minus 600 over Roberto Jimenez, but I don't think you can count Jimenez out. Jimenez is the kind of guy who can go out and lose to somebody that you think he's going to beat, and then he'll turn around and go out and beat somebody that you think he's going to lose to. He's a very dynamic grappler. He's got a lot of tools in his arsenal, and he's really exciting to watch. So I like this. I think this is good for the sport. I'm not going to lie. Like, I would like to see CGI do an event the same day, like a pop-up grappling event at the Civic Auditorium in whatever city whose number one is at, but we're probably not going to see that, but that would be cool. I think one thing you said a couple minutes ago that's really piqued my interest is a lot of these names have been on Fight Pass cards in the past. And how does this change the complexion of these promotions when guys do get locked up and girls do get locked up into contracts? That'll be interesting because right now we're probably seeing the best version of it and that they all float around, so it'd be interesting to see, but I'm looking forward to that card.
Well, it's also going to have ripples in the way that people talk trash because it's going to become a bit as well. When people go, yeah, you want to settle this? Yeah, let's do it. Except the way my contract works, I can't actually, I'm not legally allowed to go up against you. But see, if I could, how about you come here, you break your contract? Or how about we get my boss versus your boss to talk to each other and let's see who wins. Oh, the UFC has money? Shit, we're not going to win. So I challenge you on the streets. Like, I see a lot of intriguing ripples. And I'm trying to prepare myself because I think for grapplers, they might learn the thing that most people hate, which is if you like government oversight, then you're in for a great time. If you don't, it's going to be similar where it's going to be a My contract does not allow me to do that. I
Yeah.
would love to take you on in there. And Egghead put a note here that said there better be a lucrative contract to get folks to forego ADCC and CGI. So you say that, but only one of those pays well. What ends up happening, and I've talked about this before, is the prestige will go where the money is. I'm not saying it's a 100% guarantee that you won't have the history or the meaning that ADCC championships have. But if you offer people, we saw this experiment with CJI. They went somewhere else, they made their own thing, and people were very intrigued by that. So it doesn't mean what we knew in the past is going to stay that way at all, because you might see another split happen where if their contracts don't allow them to go to ADCC, some athletes might say, okay, you're paying me more. Let's see how this goes. I'm in the UFC. Where else am I going to go? Because that pinnacle didn't exist for them, and now it might. So it's very likely you will see everything stay the status quo. ADCC will still be this big giant. Craig Jones Invitational, a disruptor, likely a big person that you would want to try to sign as a partnership if you're the UFC. I wonder if that's a possibility. There's a lot of moving parts at play because Craig just barely got into the promoter game, and now things might get a little more segmented. So that freewheeling, let's get people in here for $1 million. I don't know. I don't know how people play nice. And maybe for Craig's organization, because he's the best charmer in the world, he has a couple conversations with Dana, and all of a sudden it becomes, hey, you're great. I like this guy. This Craig Jones, he's the guy. He's petty like I'm petty, and we like each other. Like, you could easily see that happening. We don't know yet. But I have a feeling UFC is very interested in the Craig Jones Invitational. They may not want to pay for it, but that doesn't mean they won't deal with them. The other organizations, all TBD. I legitimately think that. And I think we're in an era of, if you're a grappler, now's a good time to find the guy in your gym that's a good lawyer. Like, if you are a competitive grappler, get someone who can read those contracts, because we have not seen people read their contracts and been iced out of things. At least know what you're getting into and feel somewhat comfortable that if you do sign with the UFC, that's a lot more visible than most other organizations. So that is the pro con. You just won't be as in charge of your fights or your grappling matches as you probably used to be.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. And, you know, there's a little risk that it goes the way of boxing, where there's a WBO champion, a WNBO champion, this champion and that champion, which would kind of suck in a way, you know, if you got like 7 different organizations with champions that never fight each other. Dana's not super well known for cross promoting, but the UFC has done some cross promoting, you know, here and there. He might do it in the case of CJI only because he is not a huge fan of the Mo Jassim crew, as far as I know. So that could be some motivation for him moving forward. But who's to say, man? You know, I think right now it's a good time. And I think you're really right. If you don't have a manager or an agent or somebody that knows how to read a contract, you know, you're going to run the risk of screwing yourself over pretty bad. So
I'm just in a space where, you know, this is how we write off our show is we give important advice. So that's how we get off on the tax bracket here. We just tell people, like, oh, this is an educational show. So This is how we keep it educational, as we go, read your contracts. Anyway, here's some shit jokes about your favorite grapplers. All right, on to the next one. Speaking of shit jokes about your favorite grapplers, hey, let's get to my favorite topic. Subversive Fight Club. I survived. And guess what, kids? You can too. It was fun. It was great. It was 2 days of back-to-back action. So we did Subversive Fight Club, the very first installment out of Rancho Cucamonga. We had about 17 or so matches, 14, somewhere in there. They were so much fun. The time flew by. I do have an announcement about that in a second, but I'll get to that momentarily. The next day, we did the kids event. And I got to tell you, the kids won me over very, very well, because The competition was great. There was a lot of great sportsmanship. The kids are scary. They're super good. This is, wow. This was so incredibly well done that I was very happy to put those two back to back. I will say this. Anybody who works in an organization where things can go wrong, it happens. A lot of us do troubleshooting. Some of our best staffs go out there, they kill it. They make sure that we're all able to put on the great show that you guys love and expect. What I would say is my team put out a lot of fires. They did an incredible job, but we kept getting hit in the comment section though. It's like, where's the live stream? Here's your answer. Let's just say that the facility that did have internet connection didn't week of show. And a lot of things were going out of their way, people moving to go get Starlink, which we did have, to go get other means to try and get cable companies. And it just mattered that at the last few seconds, our bandwidth was not strong enough to broadcast live. So we had to make the executive decision to give the internet to our ticketing team because people got to get in. You got to scan them. To our alcohol team. People want to have beverages. You got to let them do it. They got to pay for it. And to our merch team. But when I tell you this, it was a headache of the utmost nature where when people were like, where's the stream? And I was like, well, it is free and we will give it to you. And it did upset me that we were not able to broadcast it live. But the fact that we were able to put together an event, 2 events nonetheless, and have it go as well as it did, very proud of my staff. Super happy that everybody pulled it together. But man, whoo! Your boy almost had about 4 different heart attacks and almost fought about 12 different people. And somehow managed to stay healthy and with 0 fights. But I do like to tell people, this is kind of a little trait about me. You'll know I'm mad when I get intensely silent. Like,
yes.
It is not a scream yell at you. It is a very focused, I need to get this job done. Maybe I'm not cracking as many jokes as I normally do, but I try not to take it out on people. So no, I think that was the tip-off was a couple of my staff members were like, we saw that you were kind of like in the zone and we just left you alone. I go, I think that was the best way to do it. I go, if you're ever that nervous, you can text me the information you have. That's fine. It's fine. I don't want to just blow up at you.
Yeah, the quieter you get, generally, the more ready you are to bounce somebody on their head. I was looking for a fight video of you at Subversive Fight Club for this week's installment. I'm like, I know he jacked somebody, dude. I know it.
So
I know it
close,
happened.
though, because I was telling people, I was like, don't have me interact with a couple people. I think it's better for the group. I'm generally a nice guy. I'd like to think, but I just knew I was like, I think it's going to be bad news. And for the most part, it went through great. And like I said, you know, B-Max in the comment section, he knows this to be true. When you have great staff and they're going out of their way and they're doing everything possible, the blame is not on them. So don't put any of that on them. And it was ultimately my call to not have it stream because I said, there's no way this is going to go out and people won't look at this pixelated thing that's barely making on air, looking like Nintendo graphics from the 80s, staring at it, and don't get in the comment section for a free show and goes, looks like shit. And you're like, there is no winning in this situation. Why not just present what you saw? And hopefully that answers the question. Because yes, I did see it in the DMs, and it's not like I didn't have time to go there and respond to each one of you. But I also had no reason to get into a fight because you guys wanted to see what you wanted to see. So I'm glad we got it done. It's now up and available. So if you go to Subversive Official, you can check it on our YouTube page, and I'm sure you're going to see clips from it if you haven't already before. But I would say support those good folks. There's another one I think we're planning in February. We're super stoked for that. But in the meantime, support that one and watch the kids event. That one was super fun. I commentated that one solo, and I think you're getting a good peek as to where we're going in the future. So happy to do that one, and yay, not fighting people. So huzzah. We go to our next one here. Tim, what can you tell us about this fight before I roll the package here?
Well, I usually find fights where people slip and fall down and make fools of themselves, but these two guys squared up in a shopping mall and had a pretty decent fight. Like it was a good gentlemanly fisticuffs. There, I love the street fight rules that are not published, but they're shouted out, and it's kind of depends on who the crowd is around the street fight. Sometimes they yell no kicking, sometimes there's no takedowns. You'll hear let them up. On this one, we heard no holding, which is like these guys must be playing. They must be football players. They're like no holding, no holding, and the Good Samaritan passed by with his little J. Crew bag or whatever it was and attempted to break it up. And then at one point, he's just like, fuck it. You guys can just fight.
By the way,
And
you say, well, hold on. You say no holding. And all I can think about is maybe they're purist boxing fans where they just want to break up the action when they get like too close. And they're like, nah, break it up. You guys got to fight it out. Like maybe that's where they were coming from.
It could be. It could be. There is a cell phone incident, which is pretty funny to see. And a couple times, one of the dudes makes an attempt to like, I got to get my phone because it's just laying there, like as if someone's gonna gank it from him, like mid fight, you know. And his opponent cuts the ring off on him. He's like, no, you're not calling for backup, dog.
Well, I think that's as good of a sign as any, Tim. I'm going to play it right now, and I'm going to let you go ahead and walk us through it, sir.
Okay, here we go. We got two dudes. One guy plays for the Portland Trailblazers. Number 3, he's got his fight kit on. This is this is hats versus beards, and they're getting after it. And you can see the phone's already launched up by that little white brick wall on the ground. And number 3 is throwing some big shots, a little wild. Beard Man is staying in the pocket real nice, throwing left and right hooks. He's covering up with his left hand. Probably hard to fight a guy that's unorthodox. There's a little clenching, and this is where they're like, no holding. And now bad guy comes in with his Nike bag. He's like, hey, I just bought some Jordans. I'm going to break this up. I was at Foot Locker, so I was around referees. And they're like, nah, dude, we're going to settle our beef. And so T-shirt guy, he's just like, all right, I'm out. I got to pick up my kid. These dudes get after it. You can see number 3's like, oh, hold on, I got to get my phone. And Beard Guy's like, no, you're not. And then he shouts something at him. And they're like, okay, it's over.
Hold on, Tim.
I don't know if a round timer went off or what happened.
We talked about this. What? Like, cut off the last 2 seconds here. Let me see what else you had, because it's always the transition that lets us know you have good reception there. You got a good charge. We see that you keep who keeps their cell phone with their calculator on their list of favorite things?
I got to count my money, dog.
Okay, and then what is the earpiece one here? Is that when you can't hear it just activates the
little ear there? I think you can use your AirPod as like a hearing aid device somehow. I think that's what that is. I haven't messed around with that, but maybe I should.
I'm very concerned here. If you're using that, we need to talk off air. But okay, let me give you my rundown here, because
please.
I watched this one similar, but I have some thoughts. Here we go. First and foremost, I love the fact whenever somebody gets hit like a bobblehead here, it like brings you into the fight. Now, check out this audience here. Bobblehead hit, bam. Now he backs up. We talked about you saying this is hats versus beards. Didn't know that was a well-contested little gang affiliation war that we have going on here. But nonetheless, dude with the beard trying to press forward. And I got to say, he keeps his head down a little bit too much for my taste. That's how you can see Jersey over here moving him into the wall, which, by the way, these guys are nicer than I am, because if somebody's literally engaging me, I'm throwing them into the fucking wall right there.
Yeah.
Nonetheless, he thought about going for a headlock here, doesn't quite get it, tries to pop back up. This is my favorite stance of all the stances, by the way. This. When you shrug down like you're a backup dancer in a Bad Boy fucking music video and still try to do a little bit of this dude's like, this is my Philly shell. And you go, sir, that literally is like a Detroit shell. I don't know what you're talking about here.
It's a Portland shell.
It's a Portland shell indeed. And it's the wavering back that has me dying. So a myth thing. And what I could say about Jersey is, there's a couple times throughout this fight where he did block some of these. But this one in itself, this to me is like, my guy, I know this worked on a recess back in grade school. This swing is not going to do shit for anybody. You are not swatting at me like you're a fucking zoo animal. Guess what? You got popped for it. Now, we talk about this, and this is when you start trying to utilize that reach, but you leave yourself open. Now, check out this dude who's just walking his way. Like, this is how you can tell it's an area of a city where people go, I don't give a shit. I got to get back to my car. I parked valet. And he makes his way, no problems, right? But then he says, hey, peace. Peace be with you. Peace be with you, my friends. Please don't fight. Listen, you did not just hit my neck, sir. He's going to try one more time here and then just says, you know what? I'm done. My mission here, I can't change these people. Tim, the question I have for you in this situation, he tries to resolve it through words, and then here they just mutually agree to stop. What was said in that?
I'll tell you,
that made it stop?
This is what he said, and I don't get it, but this is what he said. He said, beef. And when he said beef, it was like a magic word, and both guys stopped. They did a tiny little like bow, like a little, just a quick like a ta-ta. And then he's like, I got to get my phone.
So maybe I'm new to this. Do fights, specifically street fights, have the same use for a safe word that other people who use a safe word use? That is not for fighting, Tim?
I feel like maybe those were like mall rules or something like that.
What
like
the fuck are we talking about mall rules? Like, legitimately fighting has a safe word now? What the fuck is this, dude? Like, literally, they both agreed and said, yeah, okay, let's go our separate ways. To our knowledge, we don't have full context. I don't think these people have met before. And yet, the code, the word on the streets, do we need to know what it is? So do you just need to say beef to start a fight and to end a fight? Because I feel the one person who would know this is not here with us. So we don't have KEVIN SHERRILL to let us know if that's a thing. Because 100% that Georgian boy has probably said, oh yeah, I've definitely said beef at one point. And I went over
Everyone
and
knows
said,
that.
Beef. Everybody knows that. Man, that's crazy. You guys are crazy.
I think maybe Beard Guy thought that Jersey Guy was a vegan. And so he was going at him, and then he yelled like, nah, dude, beef. And he's like, oh shit, my bad.
No.
And that was it.
It's
Like,
literally got me to the point where I'm taking my inner ears out. I think our words are not done. This dude
he just
said
yelled
he thought
beef,
he was
dude.
vegan, and he just yelled out beef. Like,
He's like,
you know
oh,
what it
we're good.
was? The other dude, beer dude, was asking, what's for dinner? And this dude came back with beef. And he goes, oh yeah, I gotta get home too. Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, I don't know,
Lord.
man. Sponsored by Wendy's, I guess.
Oh my God.
The Jersey Guy was trying to get his phone though. He was distracted by the phone. Beard Guy was ready to squab, man. It was good.
This is
Good
the
little mall
dumbest
fight.
thing we've ever watched. It's so great though. It's so wonderful because like matches like this, Tim, are a testament to it's open to interpretation. It's what you see in it. It's the Rorschach test of fights that you brought for us here today. Tim,
I would like to know what they said to their friends when they got home, because it was a very anticlimactic ending. I'm sure they both told stories like, dude, I socked him, dude. I hit him with an uppercut. He went back. I knocked his ass out, and then I left. And then the video comes out, and they're like, oh, you just yelled beef, and then you guys walked away. Like, what?
Right as you presented that, I was like, yeah, sometimes when I tell people it may not like match up 100% if I'm telling a fight story. Like I've told grappling stories where I was like, oh, and then I just ended up in an armbar. I just cut out the part where I was like miserably trounced by position for
Right,
5 minutes
right.
because it was like it ended in an armbar. So like it's still the end. I got to the end. I just didn't tell you. Like I had to survive 20 other submissions. Tim, listen, dude. I think we're at a place to go ahead and kill this, but we do have just a couple little gallery moments, and this actually comes from our chat section. And allow me to go ahead and give you the updates on what people are saying here. The first was, now I'm going to get your reaction here. PGF, all exclusive contracts moving forward.
I feel I saw that and I'm like, if
And then only signing blue belts
I knew there was a rub, man.
and
I knew it.
influencers. Because I was like, yo, PGF, let's not do this. Let's not get involved in the mafia wars just yet. And then this was something that was weird. Aaron Sheffield said, yo, Brandon, can I get my blue belt back?
Back.
And BMAC said, Aaron, I thought you were a blue belt. So I don't know what's happening here, but it's apparently big news to BMAC. So we'll just leave it at this. Sheffield, congratulations on getting your blue belt back or being awarded a blue belt or maybe being an advanced person who lost their belt but is getting it back. Who knows? But I will tell you this. I think it's time for us to go ahead and start signaling for the end. Tim, I'll go ahead and let you plug your stuff. Where can the people find you, sir?
You can find me at Inside BJJ on all the social media channels. I have a Patreon, patreon.com/Inside BJJ. Stay tuned. Check it out. If you're out in Stockton, go check out 10th Planet Stockton. And if you're out at Nashville, please come see me at 10th Planet Nashville. RAF, it feels great to be back. I'm not dead anymore, and I think I'm out of the woods mostly on this. So I'm super looking forward to future shows, and it's a real pleasure to sit down with you today, man. Happy Thanksgiving to you too.
Likewise, sir. I'm very happy to have you back. It was odd to not have you with us and less fun. So to all of you guys watching, thank you so much for participating in today's Black Friday edition of our little, well, it's not the PGF pre-show, so let's take that off. It's also not season 7. Nope, not a post-show, not a pre-show. Bullpen. That's us. Oh, we are not live from Las Vegas. There's a lot of shit on these things. All right, I'll fix that later. Anyway, I guess what I would say to you is this. Thank you so much for watching. We hope that you guys enjoy it. Go check me out, Grappling Hour on Patreon. You know, patreon.com/Grappling Hour. See my interviews 30 days before anybody else, blah, blah, blah. Give me $5 a month. That's really what it comes down to. That's the Black Friday deal. Same as before. You can get it on Monday. You can get it on Tuesday. Cyber Monday, guess what? $5 a month. That's it. That's what I'm charging. That's the fucking thing. If you're asking for a discount from $5 a month, you are a bad friend. You are a bad subscriber. You are a bad, I don't know, ingesting friend because we give you so much free content all the time. This is free. You were not charged for this. So do us a solid. Give some support to over at Inside BJJ. Join theirs. Join mine. It's what keeps us afloat and makes it so that we can continue to do great things for you guys. All right, friends, that's going to do it for us here at the Bullpen. It's been a great day for grappling. We'll see you back on the mats.